All right. Hi, Julia. Thanks a lot for joining us at Eat Positive.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful. I'm really excited to hear about kind of your journey and the products. Naanu, I've got a package right here with me. So, why don't you start off by maybe giving us a quick introduction to yourself, your kind of vegan history, and maybe how you got into the Naanu product.
Sure, yeah. I think I recently noticed that I've been saying I've been vegan for 2 or 3 years, but I think it's closer to 5 years now. So I'm a bit off. It's been quite easy for me being vegan. So I don't know if that's why it just seems like it's not been that long. And yeah, I was vegetarian on and off all my life for all sorts of different reasons, and now committed to being vegan. Yeah, I'm from Switzerland originally, but I have non-Swiss parents, and I lived here for the first 16 years of my life, and then I went all over the place, and I lived in the US and in England and in Australia, and I somehow ended up back here, and then started Naanu pretty much after I arrived back to Switzerland.
What inspired you when you came back to start Naanu? And were you vegan at that point?
Yeah, so I was already vegan. Actually, if I'm 100% honest, the reason I started the company happened by accident. So I originally got into the startup scene in Australia and went to these startup events in London. And in London, then I started this idea stage accelerator called Founder Institute. And I had done that. It's quite an intense program that runs for about 13 weeks. And each week is sort of a different stage of starting a company. And I left at stage 6 because I felt it wasn't really the right fit of the company I was trying to start. Yeah, and then when I arrived back to Switzerland, I kept it in the back of my mind that if they ever started the program in Zurich, I would love to join again. And one day it was up on their website, and instead of clicking on more info, the button I clicked on just signed me back up again. Um, so it happened a bit by accident. And then, yeah, so I was already vegan. I wasn't being too careful with supplements, just because I don't know, I've had this conversation with many people now. We feel healthy. It's not like you have a headache and you take an aspirin and then you feel better, but you should be taking it. So yeah, started off with this weird combination of I'm from Switzerland, so I love chocolate and I love all the sweets, and I'm used to walking through any type of store before being vegan and just being able to take any cookies or chocolate or whatever and just, being very unhealthy with that. And at the same time, I just had this moment of, if I really want to be vegan, then there's all these supplements. And I try to not make it seem that only vegans have deficiencies in nutrients. But it's more easy to say in a vegan nutrition what actually you're lacking. And I just put these things together. I was like, I want to have something sweet that I'm allowed to eat, that doesn't contain any milk powder type ingredients. And at the same time that it sort of just covers what you need on a daily basis. Because at the very beginning, I had interviewed some vegan people, and it ranged from people taking like 3 supplements to 9 supplements every day. And just, yeah, it didn't seem consistent. Most people said they'll just take it when they need to take it. They don't really feel like they want to take it anyways. And it's just sort of, since it's the only option out there to take pills, that's just what they do. So I put those 2 things together, and I created what originally was called Happy Bites. And the first version of the cookie was about this size, and it was quite green. Because originally we just tried to chop up these pills and put them into the cookie, which was our first version, but obviously that we weren't going to use that to sell it to anyone. Yeah, so that was kind of the start.
Well, I can say now that these cookies are definitely not green anymore, which is positive, and they're incredibly tasty. So, how did you come up with the idea that of the ingredients, the different vitamins? How did you choose those specifically, and how did the product develop, and maybe some of the challenges you faced along the way, competitors, or even in your own business?
Yeah, sure. So I think originally we just sort of started out with what is most lacking in a vegan diet, which is like vitamin B12, vitamin D, calcium, iron, zinc, those types of things. And then we just went into a list of ingredients of, what is out there of natural ingredients, no synthetic chemical type things, but just natural ingredients. And we just went from there. So it started off with sesame seeds because they're very nutritious by themselves. They already contain quite a bit of calcium, iron. The issue with those is they're quite bitter if you just eat it like that. I don't know if you've ever tried to eat some tahini, but that's basically sesame seeds and it tastes terrible by itself and it's very sticky. So we kind of started there and then just tried to add whatever we could to get it to the point where it is now. It is currently at version 80, so that did require quite some testing, and we're still testing now with, how can we make it taste even better? How can we make it be even more nutritious? But yeah, we're still going, but sesame seeds are still a big part of the original cookie. And then along with that, we just tried to develop natural processes to be able to like increase all of these nutrients in the ingredients by not adding anything weird to the cookie itself. Yeah.
And I've noticed that even though you do say vegan, it's kind of a subtle, subtle in a sense of it's not just for vegans. Is that something that you've really tried to make a point of it? And is there a reasoning behind that?
Yeah, I think just when you start out a company, it's much easier to be able to say who exactly you're making it for. We've had it both ways. We've had people who've come to us and said, "Oh, but I'm not vegan. Can I still eat it?" Where I'm like, "Yes, of course. You might be lacking it, but there's not anything that in there that would harm a non-vegan." And at the same time, yeah, we've had people who are vegan who are like, "Yeah, but why did you specifically say it's vegan?" Or we've had someone with a vitamin D deficiency who said, "Well, but can't I eat the cookie? I looked at your webpage, it said vegan." And then I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not really interested in vegan things." So there's a bit of it's sometimes difficult to tell how exactly to position it. Yeah, but we're testing out what works best and they're just going from there, kind of. It's a lot of startup things, is a lot of just testing out what works and what doesn't. And usually, I mean, last year wasn't really possible, but the year before, just as soon as we had our first version of the cookie, going to these vegan events and being able to share it and just see what people say and what their feedback is has been really useful, which now is a bit harder because we can't go anywhere. So we kind of rely on people just sending us an email every now and then and saying, "Oh, I saw this, but can't I also have it?" Or why does it say this? Yeah.
Well, I think everyone on this call would be happy to be part of a test product, so feel free to reach out. Is there any risk or challenges you face with maybe, say, competitors in this area? Because this whole kind of nutrition, infusing it with vitamins, I think gaining traction, especially it started off with kind of vitamin water. Are they all the same? Is everyone's product that says I've got vitamin C in it, do you actually end up with vitamin C at the end?
So that's quite an interesting thing, because I always try to look at it in a what is a viable product, right? Because a lot of the times, like there's this vitamin well water. It gives you some of the vitamins you would need in a day, not all of them. And the ones that it gives you, you'd probably have to drink a bottle every day, which I don't know. The more vegans I know, the more I know the people who just, are fine eating vegan burgers every now and then. And then there's the ones who only eat natural foods. So it kind of, there's different ways to look at it. I personally don't really want to fill myself with a liter of soft drink every day, just because there's so much bad stuff in it to make it taste good. And then there's different types of things where it goes into regulatory issues. So in Switzerland, the law states that whatever you put into a product is the amount of vitamins that you can claim on your packaging. There's this issue though, if your product is something that still has to be cooked, for example, you'll probably be losing quite a lot of those nutrients. So by the time that you've cooked the product, you're not really guaranteed that anything is still there in the end, which is quite terrible, I find. We test all of our cookies after they've been through the baking process, so we know what level of nutrients they're at the time when people will be eating them, versus like what are the ingredients that we throw into the product.
So actually your products are of a much higher quality than, say, potentially than some of the competitors, because they measure what goes in, but you actually measure what's there at the end of the process.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I mean, again, I don't want to say we have more of something, but at least we know, what was available at the end of the process before you eat it, versus, we could also list, I mean, legally for Switzerland, we could list everything that we put in, and we just don't want to do that. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Maybe the last question before we open it to the group is, have you, or could you talk about any challenges you faced, either with the business or being vegan, trying to promote this product, and the response within maybe Switzerland, and where you hope to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of problems. I think I could probably fill an hour with issues that we're having. Being a startup and me being the main person who runs it, I mean, the only person who runs it 100% of the time, full time, committed to this. There's issues I mean, I have a business background. I now, thankfully, know quite a lot more about nutrition than I did 2 years ago. But yeah, I mean, I did a bachelor in business. They didn't teach me any real life skills of how to run a company. So I think sort of the everyday issues with running a business is not the greatest things. And then anything that we do, we're just testing out. So I mean, the first packaging that we had, we just tested out what works, what doesn't. The current package we have, we thought was better because it's 100% biodegradable, but then we run into issues of people thinking it's a baking mix and not a finished cookie. Yeah, we're still testing out what price level we're at. We're still testing out different suppliers because they're always inconsistent. And I mean, yeah, getting feedback at the moment is quite difficult because you can't go to any event and ask people. That being said, if you were to sign up to our email list, we do every now and then send out an email saying, if you want to test this new sample, let us know and we'll send you one. But we just did that last week. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, but I mean, there's most of what we're doing is stuff that I've learned since starting the company. So, I mean, I had zero design skills. I made the packaging. The website is made from scratch. The marketing is, we don't know yet what works and what doesn't. We have a little bit of an inkling by now because we know where people come to our website. But it's all just new to us and we're just testing everything out, basically.
I think it's amazing. I think it's a very courageous journey to begin a startup and also as well promote kind of a vegan lifestyle. It's competitive generally, and then when you go quite specific into this market, I think it becomes even more competitive. So good luck and congratulations. Let's maybe, I'll go on mute now and open it up for the group to ask some specific questions. All right, just fire away.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for telling about your journey. I have 2 questions. One is super quick. Can you make a living out of this already? And the second one is, what was the most surprising thing, that you found out testing the product in the process that you totally didn't expect?
So I can't yet make a living from it. It's looking better since the last 3-4 months. We're not there yet, and I think we'll only sort of get there by next year or the year after with some investment and a bit more push for sales. And what was your other question?
The surprising stuff, like
Yeah.
what were things that you found out that you totally didn't anticipate?
I mean, I kind of just started off with the first cookie when we went to this, the vegan event that they have every year in Seal City, or that they don't anymore. So that was like the biggest expo. It cost us 1,000 Swiss francs to be here, and we hadn't yet sold anything until that point. So it was really like our first time to test out anything. And we expected some feedback, like, you know, is it organic and what's the packaging like and things like that. We had just created cookies that contain sugar. I must say I don't know too much about how terrible sugar is. I've heard it's more addicting than drugs. But I just thought, you know, we're in Switzerland, most products still contain sugar. I've never seen anything, you know, in Migros or Co-op that had by then mentioned no added sugar. And then the biggest question that we got, I think it was from like every third or every second person was like, oh, does this contain sugar? Or like, do you have a no added sugar version? And we were like, oh shit, so if we want to make this happen in Switzerland, we really have to do this. So yeah, that was one of the most surprising things.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
Then we very quickly went into like, okay, what are the options that we can do instead of sugar? And we were like, okay, dates are natural. We'll find a date powder somewhere. We'll test it. We sent it to people. They were like, yes, we like it. And now we have the version and people seem to buy it more than the sugar version.
Awesome. Where can you buy them?
At the moment, just on our website. I was going to share a discount code for everyone who's on the call, but maybe it's best if I can type it into the chat because then people can copy paste that. Is that okay?
Sounds amazing.
And we'll send it to anywhere in Switzerland. But yeah, just through our website at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
The idea actually is because one cookie does contain what you need in your day, the idea is that you just get like the monthly pack of cookie and it has 30 in it and we send it home and that way you eat one a day and you're good to go. No need to think about any nutrients that you might be missing.
Thank you.
Super cool stuff. This is so much better than just taking pills.
All right, next question.
So I have a question. So it sounds like the cookies aren't in the stores yet. I thought I had seen one in a store, so I'm not sure about that. But do you find it's difficult to get into the stores here, or what is your like future plan with that?
So we had some single cookies that were in this recyclable packaging, but the price that it cost us to make them and put them in the packaging was more than we could sell them for. So originally we thought we would just do that as sort of a marketing tactic. So they were at some point last year, I think, they were at one of the startup spaces in Zurich. We quickly realized it doesn't really work for us. And the issue is it was at the cafe. And usually if the cookie is at a cafe, it's compared to like just an indulgent cookie that, you know, is full of sugar, not healthy or anything. So then the price point is a bit of a thing that other businesses have a difficulty with. So we do plan this year to sell more to retailers and wholesalers and all that, but not the single cookies, only like our weekly packs, because that makes more sense for everyone. And then we're hoping to more put it into the supplement area of stores versus like in the cookie section, because then it's compared to, you know, do you want to buy the pill or do you want to buy the cookie, but it contains the same versus do you want to buy the sugary sweet cookie or do you want to buy this cookie that looks a bit more healthy, but you don't really know what it's about. Yeah, but I mean, we've had good and bad experiences so far with companies in Switzerland. It's been a bit of a like, I don't know, we've had good and bad things come out of it. It's not necessarily been very difficult yet. It's just lots of these companies have some sort of internal rule of how they do things. So if you message at the wrong time, then it's like, no, we're done for this year, come back next year. Which is a bit of a, then we just like, there's no room to grow then with any of those businesses. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, Angela. Yep, go.
How many people do you have in your company working?
Ooh, yes, so Myself, I have Aurora, who I'm not sure if she's on the call or not, who does marketing. I have one guy, Colin, who does the website things to make sure all of that kind of works, and we have a subscription system that works. And then we have people who help out in the kitchen doing production. Those are all voluntary people though, so they show up on Fridays usually. They get free lunch and we reimburse their travel trips, and they help us bake cookies all day.
Do you have like a bakery or with different stoves and so?
We're currently like there's a certified kitchen in Zurich that we're using, and we just get it like a few days per month.
Hey, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's everyone, and then we have 2 advisors who are super experienced, so that's very helpful for the inexperienced startup founder.
Cool.
Yeah.
Julia, your story is great. I look forward to trying them and giving feedback. And I also like the model of bringing in volunteers. I think that's quite interesting, both from the experience of being involved from somebody who's helping you and you testing out that person for whether or not they're actually a fit for your company. I think that's a clever idea. I had a question. You mentioned about measuring the amount of vitamins in the product at the end of the stage. How exactly do you do that? I've always been curious, like what's involved with that. So can you talk a little bit about like how that measurement happens?
Sure. So we actually just work together with a lab is the simple answer. We have every cookie after it's being produced. Not every cookie. Every time we create a new recipe, we have the cookie sent to the lab to test it on all the different vitamin levels. What usually happens is we have sort of a theoretical calculation of what we think is in the cookie. We get lab test results, and then usually there's like a little bit of loss in vitamin D, for example. So then we just go back to our recipe and we just add the difference of what has been lost back into the recipe at the beginning. Yeah. The good thing is we found out recently the shelf life of vitamin B12 is very good. So we've had it for we've tested shelf life to 6 months, but we've tasted cookies for a year that still contain like 98% of what they were supposed to. Yeah. That's
an interesting point. I don't know that that's in your FAQ about how long they potentially can last. I guess like legally you can only say to a certain extent if you know, but yeah. So and the lab test results is it quite detailed? Like I'm just curious. I'm wondering how much information you get back from these about your product.
So they usually we ask them what we want them to test. We send them about 800 grams of cookies. And then they will just tell us like how many micrograms per 100 gram of vitamin B12 or calcium is in there. And then we just go from there. It's a lot of calculations of stuff that I had never dealt with, micrograms, for example. Yeah, we plan actually in the future to have the lab tests on our website because I think that makes it even more transparent that people actually can see. But we're trying to figure out how to best add like an explanation for interpreting the lab result. Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be overwhelming, I'm sure, if you don't really understand and then you don't. It's almost a same level of the lack of understanding and trust go hand in hand. So you have to be able to decipher what's happening there. And I didn't look at the individual products. Can you see the total levels of each nutrient if you click on each product? It gives you like the nutrition facts for each type of cookie.
Yeah, so it does on our shop site, it'll give you the different nutrients. The main ones though are the same in every cookie that we have. So the B12, vitamin D, omega-3, that's the same for each product. And then it just, depending on flavor, it varies a tiny bit in calcium, iron, zinc, etc. But it'll vary in like a percentage of your daily requirement, not much more than that. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicholas. Good question. All right, probably we've got time for maybe one more. Francesca, did you have something?
I have a nutritional question, and because I have to take iron as well, and my doctor said that I have to take the iron on a empty stomach. So, but when I eat a cookie, so my stomach is not empty anymore. Does that have any influence on the availability of the iron when I consume it with the cookie?
So there's several things that happen actually when you so usually they will tell you to take supplements in the morning, for example. That's because your body's been like cleansed the longest throughout the whole 24-hour period of a day. And it just basically means that that's your best time to absorb something. There's different things depending on what vitamin and mineral you're talking about. So there's some vitamins where it's only water soluble. So only if you're having something where it can like absorb it, you'll actually absorb it. The thing usually with supplements is they'll tell you to eat it with food because they know statistically most likely you're going to absorb foods and what's in the food along with whatever supplements you're having. I can't specifically tell you like if your iron on an empty stomach would be absorbed the same versus with a cookie. We just know that the general absorption of everything in the cookie works better because your body is already absorbing the cookie itself. But it would probably make sense that if you've already had a meal and then you eat a cookie, maybe it's not as likely to absorb it because your body has already picked up some things and then doesn't really care what's following after that. But it's I mean, this is about bioavailability, and that goes into like 100 different ifs and buts. So it's difficult to tell. The best thing would be like you eat it for 3 months and then you get a test done.
Well, thank you very much. So eat it through several months, that will not be a problem. Cookies, you know, will not be a problem to eat them through several months.
Good. And it doesn't, we've got this question as well. It doesn't hurt if you eat more than one cookie. You'll be totally fine. Any excess nutrients that you take in, your body will just get rid of if it's too much.
Perfect. That's great to know because this pack is awfully empty and I don't think I've had one a day. So very tasty. I want to say a big thank you, Julia, for joining us here and answering the questions. It's been fantastic having you here, sharing your journey, and also understanding that you know, as a vegan, you're also creating change via this business. And I think that creates sustainability and also kind of where we should all move towards. So thanks a lot. It's been a great conversation.
Well, thank you for having me. And if you do, I mean, if you do want to jump on our website, if you put on your email into the newsletter thing, we don't bombard you because we don't have enough time and resources to do so. But if there's ever a new test that comes up that you can taste, there'll be an email where you can just like let us know your address and we'll send you one. Usually,
Awesome.
we have a flavor and you're already getting a subscription, we just also send it to you so that you can taste that as well.
That sounds great.
Thanks again, and thanks all for joining. We'll see you in a month's time. Julia, best of luck.
Best luck.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Julia.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Julia. Bye-bye.